Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Friday means Sixers-Celtics Game 3. That is tonight. Of course, the coverage begins at 7:30 here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. We'll get you the latest on Sixers-Celtics plus some Eagles news I want to get to as well, because today we had Eagles rookies in camp. And as I mentioned a little bit yesterday, we'll get into a little bit more today. There's some interesting news with the Eagles I think stands out and says a lot about the direction this team and this organization is going in. So we'll get to those items here on the Power Hour known as Game Night. As always, text board is open for you at 609-403-0973. And don't forget to DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. You guys can tell me what you think about the game tonight. Mike Gill just told you before he walked out the door, he thinks the Celtics win tonight. I think the Celtics lose tonight. That's right. Yes, Mike Gill thinks the Celtics win the game. I think the Celtics lose. I think the Sixers do win the game. I'll tell you why exactly in just a few minutes. But I want to start out with this point. And I mentioned this earlier on the Sports Bash to Mike Gill, and I kind of wanted to run it back for all of you who maybe didn't get to hear me earlier in the day. To me, one of the biggest storylines I don't think we're talking about enough is the Celtics hit 23s in game 2, and the Sixers had 6. If you hit 23s in a game, more often than not, you're going to win that game. See, everyone has been focused on the final score, how many points Embiid scored, and I'm not focused on those things at all. I think that the whole Embiid, should he have, shouldn't he have played, is a frivolous argument, and that a lot of the people who are bringing up that argument are probably just people who are repeating what they heard somebody else say without any critical thinking involved. So I'm going to take that out of the conversation and just put it aside. What I will say is those threes that were made and missed by both teams on Wednesday night, to me, is a huge part of the conversation. We do not focus on sometimes what actually happened in a game. We get so caught up on the narratives and the minutia. So I want to focus on the game itself, if you guys don't mind listening to me on 97.3 ESPN. You can't let the Celtics go off tonight. To me, if there's any adjustment, any change, any plan for the game tonight, it comes down to those threes. I don't think it's a coincidence that a game that the Sixers lost by a large margin was in part because they couldn't make their own threes. Think about this. If the Celtics don't make 23s, let's say they make 15 instead. I'm just throwing out a number, right? Well, guess what? That's 5 less threes. That's 15 less points. And let's say the Sixers make 3 more threes. Well, that's 9 more points. But hold on. All of a sudden, that's not a blowout anymore. All of a sudden, that game goes from being an almost 30-point deficit to now the Celtics aren't scoring 121. They're scoring 106. And you're not scoring 87. You're scoring 96. 106 to 96 sounds a lot different than 121-87. Again, I'm not suggesting that the Sixers could have won the game on Wednesday night, but why are we not talking more about the fact that the Celtics basically were unstoppable and not being contested on three-pointers on Wednesday night? Maybe if the Sixers did a better job at guarding the perimeter, that instead of going 20 for 51, maybe instead they go 15 for 45 and the game looks different and it feels different. I told you guys yesterday, I thought one of the biggest takeaways I had from game 2 was that Harden had 0 turnovers. That is a huge part of the conversation. Harden, when the Sixers lose, typically has a bunch of turnovers. His assist to turnover ratio gets completely messed up. So for the game tonight, if Harden's passing the ball and not turning the ball over, do we really anticipate that this team, a Sixers team that was one of the best teams in the NBA this past season in three-point shooting, do we really anticipate that they are going to be as bad as 6 for 30? I don't think so. I think they'll come back to the mean. You're talking about 2 of the top three-point shooting teams in the NBA going head-to-head tonight. The Celtics were the number 2 team in three-point shooting percentage of the league this year. The Sixers were number 3. They were right there next to each other. So if you have 2 of the best three-point shooting teams in the league, are we really supposed to believe that when you come home that your role players play better, that you're really going to go another 6 for 30? That number probably is going to be a lot closer to 12 for 25, honestly. And there's no way the Celtics are going to shoot 23s again tonight. It's not going to be 20 for 51. Instead, it's probably going to be something closer to, like I said with the Sixers, 12. So then it's 12 for 30, let's say. That game sounds a lot closer, does it not? Mark Jackson said this yesterday on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, former NBA player Mark Jackson, NBC Sports Philadelphia Sixers analyst.
Boston is an incredible three-point shoot team, but the Sixers are 1 or 2 in the league, depending on what day of the week is, in three-point shooting. So we can go shot for shot with you if that's what you want to do. Even though we shoot well yesterday, but we have 2 things in our favor. We have the biggest, baddest man in the NBA, also the MVP, and we also have the best three-point shooting team in the NBA. And compared to Boston, they only have three-point shooting. We got Joel and that. We'll go tat for tat if you want.
So really the adjustment that needs to be made tonight, you got to guard the three-point line. Funnel the Celtics offense into the paint. Force them to make that extra pass. Don't let them have as many opportunities. You know, we had a text message earlier in the week that said, did the Sixers in game 1 just not guard the paint and say you're not going to beat us from 3? Well, I felt like they did the opposite last night. You're telling me that Embiid, the elite rim protector, the guy that had 5 blocks in the first half, he had 5 blocks on Wednesday night. You're telling me that you can't build a game plan where you're telling Tucker, Harris, Maxey, and Harden, no threes. If they want to drive into the paint, let them. We got the best shot blocker in the league. We got the league MVP back there. Let them second guess themselves. Don't let them get open shots. Because I guarantee you, if you try to play no 3-point shot defense, are you going to get blown by on certain possessions? Absolutely. But couldn't I argue that the Sixers defense should be good enough to handle a bunch of guys driving to the basket, especially when Joel Embiid is the guy guarding the rim? It's almost like running a zone defense at this point. You put 3 guys on the perimeter, 1 guy at the top, 1 guy on the left, 1 guy on the right, and B, just run around the paint. And then the 5th guy can just chase people going on screens. It's not going to be artistic. It's not a work of art. But at least to start the game, you got to give the Celtics a different look. And I think that's the question for tonight's game. When you hear it, coverage begins at 7:30 right here on 973 ESPN. Tom McGinn is calling all the action. Doc Rivers just has to get his players to commit to forcing Boston to not have easy shots. If they have a good game shooting the mid-range, wouldn't you take that? If I come in tomorrow in the locker room with Billy Schwein, and I'm sitting across from Billy, still waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning because, well, I'm not a morning person, and Billy's all excited and all energetic, and Billy's all upset that the Sixers lost the game, do you think we're going to be complaining that, like, if I'm sitting across from Billy Schwein, or any of you listening to sound of my voice who text in to 609-403-0973, if Boston has a historic night shooting from 15 feet out, aren't we just going to chalk that up to, hey, they had a great shooting night? But if they have another big three-point night, we're all going to be complaining. Me, you listening to the sound of my voice on 973 ESPN FM, listening on 973 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Aren't all of us going to be freaking out about why this Sixers team allowed them another big night shooting? The Celtics took 51 threes. 51. That third quarter they had in Boston, when they outscored you 35-16, that's because of the three-pointer. We know for a fact that role players play better at home than on the road. And you look at Boston on Wednesday night. Who was making all those threes? You know, Jason Tatum had a horrible game on Wednesday night. The guys making all the threes, they were role players. White, he had 3 threes. Grant Williams, he had 4 threes. Brogdon had 6 threes. That means that of the 23 pointers that they made, White had 3, Williams had 4. Brogdon had 6. That means 13 of their 23s from 3 guys. You're telling me all 3 of those guys are going to do that again tonight? Doubt it. And on the flip side, the Sixers, and look, Harden, people can say whatever they want about him. He had an amazing game 1. He had a rough game 2. Are you telling me that Harden's going to go 0 for 6 again from 3? Maxi's going to go 1 for 4 again from 3? I doubt it. Melton 0 for 2 again from 3? Again, doubt it. It's not likely that the role players who didn't play well in game 2 on the road are all going to play poor tonight. The pendulum swings. And that's what I'm looking forward to tonight. Just think about the big picture. In sports, and I'll get some more of your text a little bit at 609-403-0973, your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. The other thing that happened on Wednesday that's not going to happen tonight is Joel Embiid is going to play better. You don't think that Joel Embiid is going to be on man on the mission to say, I just got my MVP. I'm going to go out there and take over this game at times? I think that you're going to see a Sixers team that goes out there and plays well tonight. Because as Tim Legler told Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, the biggest judgment for the Celtics in game 2 is mindset.
the biggest thing for them, their approach coming onto the floor was completely different, right? And there was a sense, we talk about sense of urgency all the time, it's probably overused term, but that's what they had. Their season was on the line. Philly's wasn't. Theirs was. And that to me was the biggest approach. I don't know what his voice is like or what their locker room voices were like leading up to the first game, and then you find out Embiid's not playing. And they just, for whatever reason, they just did not come out with the right mindset. And I thought they did in game 2, because that was the biggest one.
If it was literally that simple for the Celtics, your mindset, your approach is not going to win you a series. The Celtics are not going to win a series hoping they make 23s in a game. Or if Jason Tatum is going to score 7 points in 19 minutes. If you are the Sixers and you find a way to limit Tatum again, I don't know if we keep him to 7. I think that was an anomaly, okay? That was a weird game on Wednesday night, honestly. The 4 personal fouls probably played a lot into it, honestly. But you look at Tatum in the Hawks series. The games that the Celtics won, he scored at least 25 points in each of those games. In the 2 games that they lost, he combined for 48 points. 48 divided by 2 is 24, right? Yeah. So there's a number. There's a threshold for Tatum. You keep him to under 25, you have a chance to win the game. I think the Celtics team can be had tonight. And I don't think the Sixers are anywhere as bad as the output that they had on Wednesday night. I think that was an anomaly. I think people are grossly exaggerating what we saw. Because like I said, if Boston doesn't make 23s and they have 5 less, that's 15 less points that are scored Wednesday night. And how different is that game heading into the fourth quarter? Coming up on the other side, we'll get to your guys' thoughts and comments. I see Jeff from Ocean City. We'll get to your thoughts and others coming up next here on the Power Hour known as Game Night. Josh Hennick hanging out with you on 97.3 ESPN.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein. Mike Carlin joins me in the studio. We will recap Game 3 of the Sixers-Celtics series and talk Phillies baseball. A sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherapan checks in from Las Vegas with his thoughts on the NBA and NHL playoffs. Hour 2, we'll hear from Jeffrey Nash, the purveyor of FastlaneHandicapper.com. Jeffrey will preview the running of the 149th Kentucky Derby. All that and more. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins, too, for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program, brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. So you ordered a new air filter for your car. You try to install it, but it doesn't fit. So you take a little bit off the sides. What, still doesn't fit? Well, you could try to sit on it. Or get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's going to fit. Air filters, brakes, headlights, over 122 million parts. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors, let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist. Ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Want to know the best part?
It was free?
Nope.
The fact that it's on America's largest 5G networks?
Nope. It's the ding.
Oh yeah, love the ding.
Right? It's all about the ding. It's the dingarooski, the dingaroner, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Unleash your power to save with Boost. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone when you switch. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power.
And the ding.
Limited time offer. New customers only. Available on select networks. 5G not available everywhere. One device per line. Tax excluded. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
A toast to our new college grad who fills us with so much joy, almost as much as when we're in our RV. Oh, the world is your oyster, kiddo, and ours too. Now that we're covered with Progressive, Dad and I can hop in our RV anytime we want. Might even splurge on a retractable awning. Ooh, look out. Sorry, what was I talking about?
Protect your loved one with an RV policy from Progressive. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
To every woman with a will and a workbench. Every mom with a miter saw she's not afraid to use. Every daughter with a drill and the drive. To the women who get their nail guns together. The ones who are welding the gap. The same ones who DIY like no one's watching. At the Home Depot, we see the potential in you because you see the potential in everything. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
Tomorrow on ESPN Radio.
Thompson with a three. That is good. Klay Thompson, a game high 28.
We're heading to Los Angeles with the Lakers and Warriors tied up at 1 game each after Golden State bounces back to win Game 2. Now it's a Saturday night pivotal Game 3 showdown. Game 3 of the Lakers and Warriors, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Listen to the NBA playoffs exclusively on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN.
You don't give that shooting rhythm early in the game. Very important. When people talk about Boston withstanding the emotional gut punch Philly can hit him with in that front of that crowd, I also think Philadelphia's got to be careful. Because Boston can hit you with 6-7 threes in a quarter. They've done it many times this year. Can't let that happen at the start of the game and let them find their offensive rhythm. So, yeah, this is a big one. There's no question about it. One of the more anticipated games of the season for me.
Sixers coverage begins at 7:30 tonight on 97.3 ESPN. The Embiid MVP ceremony is set to start around 7:35 and then tip off at 7:50. We'll carry all of that for you right here on 97.3 ESPN. You heard Legler say right there. Can't let the Celtics go off. You can't let them have the opportunity to swing the course of a game around. I think that's the biggest part of all this, is that you can't let one team dictate the game on your home floor. Look, if home court means anything, the Sixers should win at least tonight. In theory, if the Sixers have the league MVP, if the Sixers are the team that won the most games in the regular season since Allen Iverson wore a jersey in this town in a regular season, Embiid is the first MVP since Iverson 20 plus years ago. If James Harden is a future Hall of Famer, as Doc Rivers loves to bring up all the time, if Tyrese Maxey is as good as everyone says he is, if PJ Tucker is worth the money that they gave him that everybody complained about last summer, if Tobias Harris is not a marginal player in the NBA, if DeAnthony Melton is anywhere as good as we have lauded him to be this year, then you can't lose this game tonight. It's very simple to me. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. Of course, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the game tonight. We'll get to the Eagles stuff a little bit later in the hour. But Jeff in Ocean City chimes in, says, hey, Josh, how many points are you expecting out of Embiid tonight? I'm thinking the Sixers win tonight, 98-89. That's from Jeff in Ocean City. Jeff didn't just give me, I think the Sixers are going to win. He gave me a score, for goodness sake. So good stuff on Jeff there. How many points do I think Embiid is going to score tonight? Man. It's a hard thing to gauge because this guy led the league in scoring this year. And the over-under on the sports books looks like it's 25.5 right now. I don't think Embiid scores 50 points again like he did the last time he played Boston. But I feel comfortable saying he'll go over the 25.5 for this one reason. If Embiid is anywhere near the player that he was before the knee injury, I think Embiid is able to score 27, 30 points tonight. Because at the end of the day, nobody on Boston can actually stop him. And the only reason why the Nets were able to slow him down was because they basically played a borderline illegal brand of basketball where they thought they could go out there and rough Embiid up. And they succeeded at knocking him out of the series, but the Sixers said, we don't care, Embiid's not here. We're going to finish you off anyway. I tend to think Embiid will play well tonight. But he's going to need his teammates to step up. And that's where I go back to, James Harden had 4 assists on Monday night. Not because he wasn't doing a good job of passing the ball. It's because his teammates weren't making shots. So I tend to believe that if we are being completely brutally honest about the game on Wednesday and not disingenuous or intellectually dishonest like some people are trying to do with some of this hogwash that's being put out there, all this, I don't know if Embiid should have played. Are the Sixers better off without him? I mean, whoever you folks are listening to, I pray for you. I pray for your sanity. I pray for your family. I pray for your children because you know what? You guys sound ridiculous. And it's not as simple as people having 2 different opinions, all right? I refuse to accept that. I function in a reality where there are 3 sides to every story. And the truth is the third side, which falls in between 2 sides of a coin. So I'm trying to find the middle ground between the Sixers winning game 1 and the Celtics winning game 2. And to me, that middle ground is pretty much that if you think the Sixers are better off without Embiid, then what you're saying is Embiid winning MVP means nothing. And that the Sixers winning the most games in a regular season in over 20 years means nothing too. What you're saying is that the best player on your team is useless to you. That type of thinking is warped. That type of thinking is part of the reason why our world is so messed up. Because there are literally people out there who can't actually understand what they're seeing and reading. I mean, what a absolutely ridiculous. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I have not heard a good argument for some of these things all week. I haven't. 609-403-0973 is the text board. Matt and Absekin chimes in. Says, hey, Josh, I think Joel scores 37 and the Sixers win 108-96. Man, Matt Nabsika went to 37. I was only willing to go to 28. He's going 37. That means that 25 and a half is going way over. Matt Nabsika, if you believe that, you better hit that 25 and a half. I tend to think the 108.96 is a little more believable than Jeff in Ocean City's 98.89. We're all in agreement on the Sixers can win tonight. The only reason I say Jeff in Ocean City, you're 89. I just don't see a scenario where Boston gets shut down like that tonight. Even the game the Sixers won in this series, Boston still scored 115. And you go through the entire Boston postseason, and as Legler, you just heard him say, Boston's a team that can go and hit 6 threes, and it's no sweat off their back. When Boston lost to Atlanta, they scored 122 and 117. Boston hasn't scored under 100 points this entire postseason. I mean, I can double check, but when was the last time Boston scored less than 100 points in a game this year? I'm going to look at it real quick. It was a win over Toronto back on April 5th. So literally a month ago was the last time they scored less than 100 points. They won 97-93. Before that, the last time that Boston scored less than 100 points, I'm just scrolling to the list here. April 20, sorry, what is that? February 27th. Man, I got to double check my eyesight here. February 27th, they scored 94 points. So that's twice in the last couple months. That's the only reason why I don't think Jeff Ocean City's prediction is very valid. I do like that he has him winning. Over at 609-403-0973, Adam in EHT says, the winning of games doesn't matter. Otherwise, we would be playing the Knicks. Not fully sure what, Adam, you mean by that. I'm wondering if you might have a Google talk to text going on there, or voice to chat function, and maybe your texting function didn't. Maybe you meant if the winning of games doesn't matter, then we would be playing the Knicks. Maybe that's what you meant. Not 100% sure, but Adam and EHT, try again then. 609-403-0973. By the way, one other thing about Embiid tonight. How many minutes do we think he's going to have to play to get to around 30 points? Because remember, if you go back to the game on Wednesday night, he barely played. It's not like he was out there for like 35, 40 minutes. Yeah, he didn't score a lot, but he also didn't play a lot either. Embiid only played 27 minutes. So he scored 15 points in 27 minutes, and he only took 9 shots in the whole game. I gotta believe that he's not just gonna play more than 27 minutes, but I gotta think he's gonna shoot more than 9 times. Maybe closer to 15. Let's say Embiid at least. What if we doubled that number? He went 4 for 9 on Wednesday night. Well, if tonight he goes 8 for 18, I'm going to rationalize that he probably scores at least another 10 points, right? Just projecting out, obviously. Croce chimes in at 609-403-0973 to the text board, says, Joel will drop 30-ish points tonight if we are winning. Harden and Maxey will have to float around 20. The thing is, we need to bias to show the way he did in game 1. I want to see way more Melton than Niang tonight. Still think we can win. I put no weight on game 2. Joel needs to be disciplined for us to win. He's easily going to play 40 minutes tonight. Well, Croce, I hope it doesn't play 40 minutes. That's the first thing. I hope that the one thing that you put in that whole message I got a little uncomfortable about was 40 minutes. I'd like to see Joel out there for 35, 36. I hope it doesn't play 40 minutes because they might be too tired to play on Sunday. Oh my goodness, man! 40 minutes for Embiid is a huge jump to me. But I like the rest of what you said here. You do need Harden and Maxey to get you to a certain number. You go back to the first game. We all talked about how Harden scored 45, but we haven't talked about what Maxey did in the game. Maxey had a rough first half, and he played way better in the second. And Maxey finished with 26. So if you were to get, let's say, 18 points out of Maxey and 25 out of Harden, it's not bad. It's not a bad night for two of your main supporting cast members. Croce's right. Harris gave you an important game. In fact, frankly, Harris is the only guy consistently hitting threes in this series. He went 2 for 5 in the first game, in game 1. And then in game 2, I got to double check, but I think he went 2 for 5 in that game as well. Let me double check here. Yeah, he went 2 for 5 in that game as well. So Harris is actually your most reliable perimeter shooter right now, how crazy that may sound. I love what Croce says. We need more Melton than Niang. The problem with Niang is that Niang is the embodiment of the 82 game player and not the 16 game player. Niang is your ultimate, I can get you points in the regular season, but in a postseason series where people are game planning for me, I don't have enough athleticism to make up the difference. So, Croce, you're right. You want Melton on the floor more than Niang. The problem is that when Harris and Embiid come out, who's on the floor? Well, we know Paul Reed's on the floor, but who else is out there? If you have a lineup where it's Harden, Melton, Paul Reed, who else is out there? Maxey? If it's not Niang, who is it? McDaniels? Are we asking more minutes on McDaniels? McDaniels played 13 minutes in a blowout loss the other night, which was still less than Melton. So I think if you want less Niang, you need more McDaniels. I think that's what the real answer is here, Croce. I think that I want McDaniels out there anyway because of his defense. I think that he's athletic enough and long enough and versatile enough to give you something defensively. Now, the problem is that through the first 2 games of this series, he's giving you next to nothing offensively. So if PJ Tucker is not on, let's say Tucker and Embiid are not on the floor, are you willing to look at McDaniels and say, look, I know you can give me something defensively, so I'm not going to worry about your offensive production? I don't know what the right answer to that question is. But to me, Croce, I think the answer is less about Melton than it is about McDaniels. Because McDaniels is a guy who can switch defensively. I think that he is literally here because of the Celtics. There is no one better on this team if they have to switch from Grant Williams to Tatum to Brown after a bunch of screens than McDaniels can. McDaniels is the ultimate best at switching between different guys right now. He's longer and more athletic than PJ Tucker. And I think that has to factor into the conversation. So if you don't want Niang on the floor, you need more McDaniels. That's what I think the answer is. I think McDaniels is way better at handling the defense side of the ball. As I said earlier in the hour, here on 97.3 ESPN, Josh Hennick hanging out with you on a Friday night, leading you up to Sixers basketball. Coverage begins at 7:30 tonight. Tom McGinnis calling all the action right here on your home for Sixers basketball in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. I still tend to think that you got to stop Boston from hitting threes. You got to contest every three-pointer. No open shots. No allowing them to get the third and fourth pass in. Force them to drive to the basket. Force them to not get into rhythm. One of the reasons why Jordan Poole didn't make that three-point shot the other night in that game 1 against the Lakers wasn't because he was 33 feet out. It was because the turn and shoot was such a hurried motion. He never had a chance to get a good shot. And, I thought that Tim Legler brought up a great point on SportsCenter, which is he said after that game, Poole and Green didn't sprint up the court when Stephen Curry went ahead of them. They kind of walked up the court. And I think that walking and running to your spot are way different. And, when a player is able to catch, set, and shoot, they're more likely to make a shot. So to me, I look at a guy like McDaniels and say, I trust him way more than a bunch of other guys that can test shots, to be able to keep up defensively. I get it. Niang is not going to give you much in this series. He's kind of like a fish out of water. He's kind of like a guy who shows up and doesn't realize what sport that he showed up for. Like, you showed up thinking that everyone's playing basketball and you realize they're all playing hockey. Now you're like borrowing random equipment doesn't fit you anymore, just so you don't get like covered in bruises. That's who Niang is. Niang showed up to a gunfight with a knife. That's what he is in this series. All right, we'll get more of your texts a little bit more on the other side. 609-403-0973 and your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Your predictions for Sixers-Celtics tonight. Don't forget, tonight, 7:35 is the schedule for the Joel Embiid MVP presentation. And the tip-off is around 7:50. So a little later of a night than maybe you expected. So get settled in tonight. Get ready for a big Sixers game right here. 97.3 ESPN FM. You're home for the Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, NBA playoffs, the Super Bowl, March Madness, and more here in South Jersey.
It's Sixers-Celtics Game 3 tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
It's good. Harden delivers again. Another three.
It's Sixers playoff basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN, your play-by-play home for Sixers playoff basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Coverage begins at 7:30.
To every woman with a will and a workbench, every mom with a miter saw she's not afraid to use, every daughter with a drill and the drive, to the women who get their nail guns together, the ones who are welding the gap, the same ones who DIY like no one's watching. At the Home Depot, we see the potential in you because you see the potential in everything. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. Is your check engine light on? The free Fix Finder service reads your check engine, ABS, and maintenance lights. It even sends a detailed report directly to your email. When you need to get back on the road, AutoZone's free Fix Finder service is here. Get the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes. Only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
See details at AutoZone.com.
Carrie, is this schedule the most updated?
There's a wedding season rush at Dr. Iona's dental practice.
We're fully booked this week. We can try and squeeze you in next Tuesday.
She needs a dental hygienist to unveil fresh smiles.
How long has 3 been under the UV light?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins, too, for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program, brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com.
Next up, straight talk from Doug. Ever notice that saying no offense is offensive? Like, no offense, but you're overpaying for your wireless. See? Offensive.
That's the Straight Talk talking. Get unlimited plans as low as $35 a month from Straight Talk on America's most reliable 5G network. Available at Walmart and Walmart.com. On the $35 plan, first 10 gigabytes data at high speed, then 2G speeds. Refer to the latest terms at straighttalk.com. Based on most first place rankings, root metrics, second half 2022 assessments of 125 metros. Experiences vary, not an endorsement.
O'Reilly. Does your vehicle have over 75,000 miles? Get maximum high mileage engine protection with new Syntec full synthetic high mileage motor oil exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Right now, get 5 quarts of Syntec high mileage and a MicroGuard Select oil filter for just $34.99. Limits apply. Ask for Syntec high mileage at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Tomorrow on ESPN Radio. Head to the Trop to face the first place Tampa Bay Rays.
Liner out there again, and Arozarena pokes it to right field, and it's gone! Unbelievable!
The Yankees at the Rays. Coverage begins tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Listen to Major League Baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
It's not considered at all. You know, you got the but the moment, the next time it's going to be my turn. And that's the thing you're hoping. And then with that being said, they're hoping that even if Boston do have a great shooting night, some of these times they also know the fact that they can shoot the ball well, and they didn't last night. And they know with that improvement and know that Boston not going to shoot like that all the time, they want some drum ball like we know what to do.
From a player's perspective, hey, Mark Jackson heard you say right there on the Sports Passion Mike Gill. Got in the game too. Made 23. You know what? We can shoot threes too. Sixers not going to shoot poorly every night. Pendulum swinging back. You know what? If it doesn't, we got to call a spade tomorrow. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Of course, I produce for Billy Schweim in the locker room Saturday mornings on 97.3 ESPN. I'm sure Billy and Mike Carlin are going to have a lot to talk about with this game tonight. Phillies play tonight, too, if anybody actually cares. Eagles have rookie training camp. Phillies are playing tonight, but it's like the entire day has been everyone just really uptight over the Sixers game tonight. And I love it. I love the passion. I love the energy. Matt and Kate May chimes in on the text board at 609-403-0973. Says, Josh, be good to Niang. He was part of what got the Sixers to where they are right now. But you are right. He is not a fit versus the Celtics. That's Matt and Kate May. Matt, listen, I'm trying to be good to him, okay? But listen, it's a catch-22 because on one hand, you're right. Niang is part of what got you here, so you don't want to take him completely out of playing at all. But because he's not a good matchup fit for this series against the Celtics, I mean, how do you how do we reconcile the fact that Doc Rivers has made some questionable decisions with rotations over the last couple of years and the fact that Niang is getting playing time? Croce follows up on the text board and says, I think the bench needs to sustain more points and don't turn the ball over tonight. Niang did some suspect plays in game 2. I think he maybe gave you 1-3 tonight. McDaniels did way more for the Sixers in game 1. That's from Croce. I just want to see McDaniels get more run. I think that McDaniels, if you got to have Embiid go to the bench, I want Paul Reed and McDaniels out there because they're the two most athletic guys that you got in terms of attempting to play defense. Like, you're not stopping Boston. I just laid it out for you guys earlier. Boston has scored under 100 points twice since the NBA All-Star break. February 27th, April 5th. Those are the only 2 times since the All-Star break Boston scored less than 100 points. I'm not asking you to stop Boston from scoring. I'm asking you to make Boston's life difficult. I'm asking you to stop them from shooting threes, funnel them into the lane, and force them to either become a mid-range shooting team or a team that just makes so many extra passes that they put up a risky shot with 5 seconds or less on the shot clock. I don't think it's much to ask. You're playing in the NBA. And look, if Doc Rivers doesn't understand what we are talking about right here on 973 ESPN, then you know what? We will call a spade, and we will rip him for it tomorrow. But I do have to believe that Doc Rivers is not completely an idiot. I can't. I'm not with the people who think these coaches are so stupid. You don't get to this level if you're an idiot. Because people make bad decisions and choices, of course they do. But the folks who go out there and call Doc Rivers stupid, or he doesn't know anything about basketball, or he's a horrible coach. I mean, what are you comparing him to? Let's say that the best coaches in the NBA today are Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra. Those are the 2 best coaches, right? I think most people would think that. Then who's the 3rd best coach? Monty Williams? Malone from Denver? Missoula from Boston? I mean, the Boston fans hate Missoula right now for the way he's coached this year. Seriously. Who are all the coaches who are better than Doc? You hear that silence? That's to the people who don't have an answer. I always tell people, don't come to me and tell me you want to fire a coach without giving me an idea of who you would replace him with. To me, who you replace somebody with is just as important as moving on from somebody. You know, for all the people who are angry about John Gannon, and then there were some of the same people who said, hire Rex Ryan. I cringed. I wanted to go in a corner and just be by myself and not look at the internet anymore. Like, you know, sometimes I don't think we all live on the same planet. Sometimes. Because I meet so many rational people out and about, you know, if I'm the guy who goes out to, you know, it's happy hour Friday on the Sports Bash, right? And I meet up with people at Slack Tie Brewing or Ludlam Island Brewing or Gusto down in North Cape May. I don't run into these irrational people. Okay. You know, if I go out, you know, to a bar, you know, I wrote the article on 973ESPN.com with all the 37 restaurants you guys should check out in the Sea Isle. If I go over to Henry's Bar at Bracca's, or I go over to Ludlam Bar and Grill on JFK, or I go over to the Orr House on 42nd Place, I don't run into these irrational people. I feel like these irrational people are a byproduct of the internet. People who love to hide behind keyboards and just say crazy stuff. I'm not fully sure what Vaughn and Kate May is saying here. Vaughn, I think that you are a victim of talk to text, because literally Vaughn's text says, are you willing to continue to play and beat even if it means you lose the series? I think he means continue to play and beat if it means you lose the series. Vaughn and Kate May, Joel Embiid is the league MVP. You don't win this series without Embiid. You only won game one because James Harden had one of the greatest games of his entire postseason career. Of course I'm going to keep playing. After this season, we'll cross that bridge again.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
I'm fine with it. Hey, this whole thing that people are saying he shouldn't have came back. Stop. He is the MVP of the NBA. And if he can go, go. And how many times did we talk about people saying, well, you know, if the athlete can go, then they should go. Like, so he went. Now we're telling them not to go.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.